It is said in the ancient legends that if one subscribes to this channel, great things will await them. So what are you waiting for?
What? I asked, gathering around with everyone else. What are you talking about? Milo answered, holding his phone up to my face. Here, look. It's an app, but I've never heard of it. Well, open it, Trey said, tapping on the screen. As he did, the screen turned black and the words began to fade into view that read, Cerber is a dedicated ride-sharing service company that ensures anonymity and safe transportation of the paranormal. Are you a paranormal being or entity in the need of a reliable and discreet ride-sharing service? Well then, do we have the app for you? Welcome to Cerber, the #1 paranormal ride-sharing app in the world. What the fuck? I whispered to myself. At this point, we all began looking around to check outside, suspicious that someone was screwing with us. Wait, come back, there's more! Walking back over, I began to inspect the screen again. We here at Cerber offer top-notch service at a fair price. And so it went on. Basically, it said that it worked almost identically to any other ride-sharing service, with the exception that the rates for each ride must be based on the threat level the passenger posed to the driver. Then we spent a few minutes running through reviews of the company and some of the drivers. There seemed to be one guy named Jim that stirs up all matter of hell. His reviews were actually pretty hilarious most of the time. Well, that's perfect! Milo finally announced. If it's calculated by risk to the driver, then Tegan is harmless. It ought to be practically free for you guys. Half of us scoffed, as we had all apparently remembered Tegan turning a man's head into a meaty water balloon not too long ago. But she downloaded the app onto her phone and signed up all the same. Once we both had our bag packed, she asked, Okay, so I just press this button and a person comes to give us a ride? Yeah, just hit the thingy right there and we wait for someone to accept and show up, I said, looking over her shoulder as we stood in a group in the driveway. It should be a little while before anyone comes though. Okay, here goes something, she said, pressing the button that calls the ride. About that time, a passing car slammed on its brakes, squealing to a halt before slowly beginning to back up towards us. There's no fucking way. I spoke under my breath as the car approached and the window began to roll down. Hey, y'all know how to get to the cowboy town from here? Man in the driver's seat called out. Huh? A cowboy town. It's somewhere around here, right? Oh, right. You mean the rinky-dink Wild West place. Yeah, I got closed down. Kid Rock bought the place a few years ago. Sorry, dude. I answered, coming to my senses. Aw, shit! The man exclaimed before speeding off. After a few seconds, we all turned to look at each other and busted out laughing. About 5 minutes later, Tegan got a notification that a request had been accepted, and the driver was on their way. Another 10 or so minutes passed before the driver arrived in a black SUV, which pulled into the driveway. Once the door began to open, we saw their feet hit the ground behind the definitely too dark to be legal tinted windows. The first thing we noticed was that one of the driver's legs was prosthetic. As the driver closed the door to reveal a woman who looked to be in her mid-30s, she greeted us with a cheerful, Hello, everyone! And who's my lucky passenger today? She exclaimed as she began to walk towards us. I hope it's you, cutie, she said, winking at me. Huh? I said, taken aback. What? No, yes and no. She made the request, but I'm coming too, I added, pointing towards Tegan as I did and hearing Jasmine groan in the background. Oh, well, lucky me, she chirped. Well, actually, you're the lucky ones. Lucky I was already passing through to help open a new center down here. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been another driver for over 200 miles. So, where are we going? Bessemer, I said quietly, attempting not to garner any more of her attention than necessary at this point. Ah, excellent. That's pretty close to where I was headed. Everyone ready? She said in the same enthusiastic tone. So, after we all said our goodbyes, Tegan and I loaded our bags into the back and hopped into the SUV for the 3.5-hour ride. And for those of you who have never driven from Middle Tennessee to Middle Alabama, it's not a scenic trip. You get to pass through Pulaski, birthplace of good old KKK, Lynchburg, home of the Jack Daniels distillery, and more than a few Confederate monuments. Oh, sorry, I meant Southern Heritage monuments. And if that isn't bad enough, you have to suffer through the longest trip down the Civil War wasn't about slavery Avenue just to end up in, Alabama. My uncle used to say the best thing to ever come out of Alabama was the I-65. Boy, he wasn't kidding. But before we even got started, good Miss Daisy started getting real fresh with me, which was weird to say the least. I'm not really used to being flirted with, like, at all. Needless to say, that sent my bitch gland into overdrive. "I like the hipster look," the driver said, glancing into the mirror. "It suits you." What? Hipster? You know those are fighting words down here, right? I retorted. "Well, I just mean I like the glasses and the baggy shirt and the gym shorts and the Chuck Taylors," she said, trailing off. "This is how I dress to sit in a car for 3.5 hours. People actually dress like this to go out on purpose where you come from?" I said, my tone getting more agitated. "Well, yeah. A lot of people in California go through a lot of trouble to spend a lot of money to look like they bought everything they were wearing in a thrift store." "You bought everything you're wearing in a thrift store," she mumbled regretfully. "Yes, I did," I answered, the scowl on my face harshening. I could tell Tegan was struggling desperately to stay out of it. "Oh, I'm sorry," she apologized, glancing down at the mirror again. Still in a mood, I brushed off the apology. "Yeah, whatever. Eyes front, Terminator." "Dang, girl," she mumbled, focusing fully on the road again. Around an hour and a half later of riding in silence gave me time to think that maybe I'd been unnecessarily mean to the driver. I started to say I was sorry, but before I could, she suddenly whipped the car off the freeway into a stop.
"Holy shit, is that a spaceship?"
she yelled. I'd forgotten about the monolithic decommissioned rocket that was set up along the way. I guess it would be pretty cool if you'd never seen it before, especially just happening across it when you didn't know it was there. Then Tegan looked out the window and flipped her shit right along with the driver. So after taking like 50 pictures of them under the burners with the shutter in the distance, we took a pee break and were back on the road. About the only stop after that was when we ate at the Waffle House on one of the exits. We had collectively decided that she had to experience one while she was here in the South. Not long after that, we were approaching our destination. As we rounded the last turn, we noticed a U-Haul truck parked outside of the place that was supposed to be where we were going.
Do you want me to wait for a minute? You know, just in case,"
the driver, who we knew as Charisse, asked. Yeah, maybe that's for the best," I said, and Tegan agreed. As we pulled up and began to approach the door, a man in all black, wearing a pair of those old-timey round sunglasses, exited the house, carrying with him a box of what looked like random computer and surveillance equipment as he made his way to the truck. Before we could even speak, he said, "Awfully sorry, but I'm terribly busy. You'll have to come back some other time," he said, in a slow, heavy voice. Then he began to make his way past me to the U-Haul.
"Hey, wait a goddamn minute!"
I exclaimed as I reached out and grabbed his arm in an attempt to put my newly acquired kung fu grip to use, admittedly squeezing harder than I probably should have. As I latched on and clenched my fingers together, it caused the contents of his box to shift and clatter.
"We came all the way down here because you're the only one that can make the shit we need. Now you—"
I stopped. The man wasn't even fazed. I was originally worried I might be in danger of breaking the man's arm after gripping so tightly, but now I just felt in danger. As he stared down at me through the deep void of the round, infinitely black lenses of his glasses, he spoke in a vicious, acidic tone. "That's a mighty strong grip you have there, little girl. Now, off," he commanded, and before I had time to make any kind of choice in the matter, my hand was already retracting as fast as it could.
"I'm sorry,"
I squeaked, clasping my hands together behind my back.
We really need your help,"
I added, averting my eyes down towards the cobblestone sidewalk and squeezing my hands even tighter, an effort to hold the tremors of fear that had begun to streak up and down my spine at bay. The last time I was that afraid was in the woods when I thought I was seconds away from being torn apart and eaten alive. And the last time I felt such an icy chill down my back was the same night, as I watched a 7.5-foot tall monster with murder in its eyes stalk up to a shack in total silence. I'd had it. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go home. I wanted to be as far away from that man and this place as possible. But before I could turn and tell Tegan to follow me back to the SUV, the man began to move. He huffed, taking off his glasses to reveal his impossibly pale blue eyes, then placed them into his shirt pocket, from which he also withdrew a small notepad and pen. "Turn," he commanded once again, causing my legs to obey before consulting the rest of me. He placed the pad on my back, which caused me to jerk slightly in the mild panic, and then began to scribble something. "Here," he growled, placing the notepad back into his pocket, save for the one sheet he had written on, which he had torn from the rest. "This man can make what you need. He takes the requests when I can't be bothered with them. He's young, but he's competent in his craft. Now, I have much more important things that need my attention, so if you'll be so kind as to leave me to my affairs," he said before placing his glasses back over his face and making his way back towards the truck. Me and Tegan both waited until he had gotten into the truck and drove off before even attempting to move. Once he was out of sight, I looked down at the paper, which displayed only an address, but I was more distracted by Tegan, who was now bent down and inspecting some of the grass. "Who, I wonder, is Jerry? That was not the man's name we were given, no?" "What are you talking about?" I asked as I walked towards her. "I find this in the grass," she said, holding up a small white object with something written across it. As I looked more closely, I could tell it was a flash drive. Someone had written "Jerry's Journal" across the top in permanent marker. Judging from the writing on the paper, it was likely the same guy. And yeah, I know, I should have just dropped it right there and went back to the car. But I just had to know what a man like that was doing with someone else's journal. So I crammed it into my pocket, grabbed Tegan's hand, and with an "Alright, let's get the hell out of here," ran back to the SUV with her in tow. "What the hell was all that about?" Charisse asked, obviously concerned. I had all kinds of monsters and demons and mythological beings in my backseat, but none of them gave off the bad vibes that fellow just did walking past my windows, she continued, shaking off the willies as she finished. "I'm not sure. He gave us an address, though. We're supposed to go see this guy instead, I guess," I said, handing her the piece of paper. Well, he's got really nice penmanship," she mentioned as she inspected the note. And she wasn't kidding. Even his hurried handwriting was borderline calligraphy. "Do you want us to go ahead and set a new destination in the app?" I asked sheepishly, slowly realizing what a pain in the ass we were probably being to her at this point. No, it's fine. It isn't too far away. Only a few miles, actually," she said, holding up the map on her phone. "See, we're here, and this is Michaela, right next to each other. So, this one's on me, okay?" "What? Really? Thank you," I shrieked along with Tegan. 10 minutes later, we were climbing out of the SUV at our new destination and saying our goodbyes to Charisse. "I'm sorry about the Terminator thing. That was too much," I apologized. "Oh, don't worry. I've been called worse. I actually have a friend, Jim, back home, who's gonna love that one." "Wait, the Jim with all the crazy reviews, Jim?" "Yep, that's Jim. Oh my god, that guy's great. I want to meet him so bad," I cried out in excitement. "Maybe you will sometime. I'm sure he'd get a kick out of you too," she chuckled, looking back at Tegan as she attempted to wrestle her bag from the back. "Well then, I'll see you on my way back. Week and a half, right?" she asked. "Yeah, that's supposed to be about how long it's going to take." "See you then," I answered, walking around to retrieve my bag as well. "Roger that," Charisse said before driving away, kicking up dust from the long dirt road as she went. Once she was gone, Tegan and I turned to face the house. Aside from it being, well, an absolute dump, the first thing that stuck out was the older man out front. A gangly man. His skin was several shades more tan than even Milo's, and his hair was just as black, but long and matted. Even from a distance, it was easy to tell this man worked a lot outside. He seemed to be welding on a mess of steel bars. "Is that him?" I asked, turning towards Tegan, who just shrugged her shoulders in response. As we walked up to him, it became painfully obvious that he was making two stick people, with their heads between each other's legs, Tegan and I both stopped and looked at each other, exchanging winces for a second before approaching. Hello? I stammered, shielding my eyes from the bright electric arc. Startled, the man lifted up his wielding hood.
Oh shit, you snuck up on me. Hey, you wanna buy 2 people 69ing?
No. Thanks, I'm trying to quit, I replied. Are you the guy we're supposed to see about? I was interrupted by yelling coming from around the corner of the dilapidated house.
Tony! God damn it, I swear to God, if you're using my good steel again for those damn stick figures, you're gonna owe me a new pair of sandals too. Cause these are gonna go so far up your ass, you're gonna be picking gravel out your
A much younger man rounded the corner and stopped as he noticed me and Tegan standing there. Looks of alarm and confusion plastered across our faces.
Oh, hey, what can I do for you ladies?
We're here about these, I said, holding out the sketches everyone made of their future vampire slaying devices. Taking a second to flip through the papers, he replied.
Well, I think I should be able to help y'all out.
He cut himself short.
Son of a bitch!
He yelled, grabbing a long piece of steel from the lewd sculpture and breaking it off at the weld.
M390, Tony! This was a 36-inch bar of M390. You know how much this shit costs?
He scolded.
Y'all two come outside with me. And Tony, I'm gonna come back out here, and if I find another piece of steel on this thing, that's your ass,
he warned. As we made our way into the house, we heard the whir of an angle grinder fire up as the man began to cut something off the welded monstrosity. When we entered the home, we weren't greeted by roaches scurrying under the furniture as I originally anticipated, but rather a very well-maintained living room. I mean, aside from it being adorned wall-to-wall with various weapons, armor, and other curios from just about every culture you could imagine.
Make yourselves at home,
our host said, propping the piece of metal up against the wall next to the door before plopping down on a recliner.
So, sounds like you guys got some vampire killing to do,
he said, holding up the sealed note from Lita explaining the situation.
It also looks like your buddy here isn't going to be there on your way back. Bummer.
Wait, what? I shrieked, practically launching myself off the couch where I'd been sitting and snatching the note from his hand. As I poured through her words, I learned that she had known she was leaving the country again in a few days on assignment and wouldn't be back for several months. That bitch, I growled to myself, then handed the paper over to Tegan for her to read.
Why would she do this?
Tegan asked again with an air of genuine disappointment in her voice.
Oh, I'm sure it'd be fine. You got 2 werewolves and a whatever you are on your side,
he said, gesturing towards me and my fingernails, which were already starting to become pointed again despite having been clipped before we'd left that morning. Still fuming, I dropped back down on the couch, my arms and legs tightly crossed in protest. The man then started to flip back through the drawings. As he got to the back, he suddenly stopped.
Well, most of these seem pretty doable. I just have one question. Who's Dex?
He asked, a look of disappointment on his face as he spoke. Oh dear God, what did he draw? I asked, not entirely wanting to hear the answer.
Well, he seems to have just printed out this,
he said, turning the paper around to reveal a photograph of a Glock. Tegan and I both groaned as we leaned our faces down into our hands. That boy ain't ever gonna be right, I thought to myself. Just use your best judgment, I told him, at a loss for anything better to say.
Can do,
he said, balling up the paper and chucking it into the nearest trash can.
And now that's out of the way, the name's Hephaestus. Y'all can call me Hip. Follow me.
He went on as he stood up and walked around the corner. Hephaestus. Why does it sound familiar? In Greek? I asked as we caught up.
Oh, I get that a lot. Old family name,
he called back over his shoulder.
Here we go. This is where you can stay whilst you're waiting,
he said as he opened the door at the center of the unusually long hallway for the size of the house.
Help yourselves to anything you need. Kitchen's always full on the account I like to eat. But if you spot something you want, best to go ahead and get it before the long good bastard sneaks in here and absconds with it,
he cautioned, pointing to the Tony guy outside who was still loudly hacking away on the metal atrocity who was trying to pass as art.
There's a little area about 4 or 5 miles down the road. It's got restaurants and stores and movie theater and shit. Like if you get bored or need anything, well, feminine that I ain't got here. If you can't get Tony to drive you, there's a few bicycles around back you can use. Thank you, Mr. Hephaestus,
Tegan said once he was done.
We so much appreciate your kindness and hospitality. Hospitality. No, you can just call me Hep, ma'am. Mr. Hephaestus was my father. Or, well, not really. I don't actually believe who my daddy was.
He answered with a smile.
Well, I'm gonna leave y'all to it. I'm gonna go put a foot up Tony's ass and then get started on this,
he said, brandishing a stack of papers, and just like that, he was gone. It was just the two of us standing in the room. It took us both sitting in awkward silence for about 30 minutes on the one and only bed in the room to acknowledge that there was only one bed in the room. So, I think there might be only one bed, I mentioned. I have noticed this, yes. I am raised in caravan in Romania, so I am used to sharing a bed. But I'm what you call a snuggler. Oh dear God, I thought to myself, feeling my face flush with blood. I, don't think Jasmine and Milo are going to be any more thrilled about our sleeping situation than we are, I said, feeling my face nearing egg frying temperature again. Yes, I think this situation for, how you say, never leaves this room. Yeah, that's probably best, I said back as we both laughed the most uneasy of laughs. After getting settled, it took approximately 8 minutes and 21 seconds for total boredom to set in. Oh, I'm bored as shit, I screamed, flopping onto the bed and planting my face down into a pillow. Let's go raid the fridge, I said, immediately catapulting myself off the bed and out the door. The guy wasn't kidding. The fridge was like a cave of wonders, but with food. We ended up just snagging a few cheese sticks to snack on and decided to go explore the place. Not finding anything of particular interest out front, aside from the progress Tony had made on the stick figure abomination, we made our way around back. Holy shit, I said in astonishment at what was just on the other side of the house. The guy didn't just have a shop. He had stacked shipping container after shipping container on top of each other and side by side, cutting the front off of some to create a giant wall of metal and machinery.
Yo!
A call echoed from around somewhere on the wall. We looked around for a second to finally find Hep in one of the open-faced containers up top.
Decide to snoop around a little?
Yeah, we got cheese sticks, answered back, holding up a bundle of dairy rods I'd clenched in my fist.
Oh, for real? Bring me one!
He yelled down at us, pointing towards the opening in the far corner. It took us a minute to get to where he was after figuring out how the weird floors and ladder scheme had been set up. But before long, we made our way up. Hep met us at the entrance of the container we had seen him in from the ground, taking one of the pilfered cheese sticks from the bunch in my hand. As he butchered the wrapper to get to the snack inside, I took out my broken penknife, presenting it to him. Hey, I was wondering, is there any chance you could fix this?
Oh, well, that's broken. Generally, you don't fix broken blades. It's more than it's worth, and it still ain't gonna be the same.
Oh, well thanks, I started to say in disappointment before he burst out into laughter.
What? Wait, is this a plowman? I can't believe that con man's still in business. No wonder it broke, no heat treating the son of a bitch.
He exclaimed, throwing the broken blade into the garbage bin next to him.
Wait here,
he said with a chuckle, as he walked into the next container. Me and Tegan exchanged confused glances as we hear him clattering and stirring in the next room.
Here,
he said as he returned, holding a small cardboard box in his outstretched hand. I took the box and started to open it, revealing the contents. It was, well, a new knife. About the same size as my old one, but this one seemed nicer. This looks really expensive, stammered.
Damn right it is,
he said excitedly.
That's a 3V steel, and the handle's marbled carbon fiber. Even you and your crazy weird gorilla strength won't be able to break that one.
I don't think I can afford this, I sighed.
Woman, just shut up and take the damn thing,
he laughed.
I'm about to make a literal shitload of cash off of this order you're putting in. I can spare this little guy,
he added, pushing the box into my hands, closer to me, before continuing.
Oh, which reminds me, hell, keep a lookout for people that's supposed to be delivering the orichalcum. They should be here in the next day or two. You'll know them when you see them.
Tegan and I both nodded in agreement before he gave a tour of the shop, castle, wall thing, explaining the various tools, machines, and processes as he went. He had a lot of really expensive-looking modern equipment, but some of the tools looked really old. I don't mean antique store old, like ancient Bronze Age shit. But I couldn't imagine why anyone would keep things like that just lying around in a shop. After he was done explaining the mind-numbing complexities of how he'd be making our anti-clot sucker weapons, as he called them, we decided to go back inside and let everyone know we had made it in one piece, since we had kind of let it slip our mind when we arrived after our encounter with Mr. Grim Death and all that. After calling and telling everyone about the events of the day, me and Tegan just messed around on the interwebs for the rest of the day. That is until Tegan blurted out from behind the screen of her laptop,
"Oh look! They have the statue of a Roman god not far from here."
I asked, scooting across the bed to see the screen.
"It is for the god Vulcan. It is supposed to be the largest cast iron statue in all of the world,"
she said excitedly. "And I guess we can go check it out whilst we're here," I responded, scrolling down the page she had been reading. "You're right, it's really close. I'll see about getting a ride tomorrow so we can go see it," I added, giggling at her visible excitement. After that, we both went to bed. Turns out Tegan is one of the luckiest instant sleepers. As soon as her head hit the pillow, out. It took me a lot longer, however, with the thoughts of our impending turf war with a gang of vampires and all. But before long, I finally began to feel my eyes get heavy when, much to my surprise and mild panic, Tegan rolled over and put her arm around me. And there went the blushing, which got worse and worse as her arm slowly began to move up my body towards my chest. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong," I repeated to myself over and over, biting my lip in frustration. Further and further, her arm kept going, over my chest, all the way to my neck. I squeezed my eyes shut, not knowing if she was doing this in her sleep or she was awake and doing this on purpose. That was until I heard a loud snort as she shifted in her sleep, tightening her arm around my neck like a python as she did. Before I knew it, both her arms and legs were around me, pinning my arms in place and shutting off any chance of oxygen within reach of my lungs. I started to freak out. "Tegan, I can't breathe," I wheezed in anguish, but to no avail. I tried thrashing around to wake her up, but it didn't work either. "You're killing me, crazy bitch," I coughed in a barely audible voice again. As I clenched my fist, I felt my fingernails were already pointed again, so I did the only thing I could think of. Knowing she could heal almost instantly, I dug several of them stiffly into her leg.
"Ouch!"
she shrieked, springing awake from the pain of me basically shanking her in the leg.
"What did you do that for?"
she yelled at me.
"You were going anaconda on my ass. I was about to die, you fucking psycho!"
I yelled back through my now extremely hoarse voice. That was when the door swung open and Tony poked his head in, saying,
"Hey, everything okay? Whoa, freaky,"
he said upon seeing the blood running down Tegan's exposed leg and me coughing as I massaged my neck.
"My bad. Sorry to interrupt. I'll let you get back to it,"
he said as he began to close the door.
"Hey, wait!"
I shouted after him.
"Yep,"
he said, sticking his head back through the door. "Can you give us a ride to the Vulcan statue tomorrow?"
"Yeah, can do."
"Oh, thanks, I guess," I said, still trying to catch my breath.
"No problem. Just remember to use the safe word."
He laughed, closing the door behind himself.
"What does this mean, safe word?"
Tegan asked. "Oh God, I think he thinks we're—"
"I'll be right back,"
I screamed, running out the door after him. We got dressed and headed to the statue the following afternoon, rumbling and clanking along in Tony's worn-out truck. I'm pretty sure I could actually hear it tearing a hole in the ozone layer as it went. Once we got there, Tegan took her time exploring and admiring the Colossus until her attention reserves ran dry, and she decided she was hungry and nothing but Chinese would do. Luckily for us, there was a Chinese joint on our way back, probably what put the idea in her head to begin with. So we stopped there and brought back food for everyone, including Hap, who was more than gracious.
"Is this China King?"
he exclaimed, pillaging the small cardboard box of its contents.
"Where'd you guys go?"
he asked, slurping the long lo mein noodle directly out of the container. "Tony took us to see the Vulcan statue," I answered, trying to locate my own food in the box and handing Tegan hers as I did.
"Oh, really? What'd you think?"
he prodded inquisitively. Well, it was cool and all, but I still can't figure out why they'd erect a huge idol of a Roman god right in the middle of the Bible Belt.
This place was the center for the iron industry boom,
He explained.
and Vulcan is the god of iron and metal and fire and craftsmanship. If it weren't for the iron industry and then later the steel industry, Alabama would never thrive like it is.
He trailed off, seeing my look of skepticism at the word thrived.
Okay, like it did. It was doing okay for a little while. We're trying all right. Some of us are trying. This place sucks.
He finished, defeated.
What do you think of the actual statue, though?
It was neat, but I wonder what he would have actually looked like, though.
Yeah, they never do get the face right,
he said, taking his food and walking back to his shop as he spoke. What do you think he meant by that? I asked Tegan, who just shrugged her shoulders, her mouth full of rice and pepper steak.